Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1231, January 24, 2024. 57 degrees was the high on this day in 1981. And it was 33 below on this day in 1904.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Height in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Soucheray.
Before we begin, I'd like to put to rest the matter of the dead deer on White Bear Lake and what might have killed it.
Okay.
All right. Bill Stein will weigh in. He lives up in Aiken. I'm catching up on the podcast, so I might be late to the party concerning the deer carcass on White Bear Lake. The deer was most likely ravaged by coyotes or dogs and eagles. The fact that there was that much of the carcass remaining rules out timber wolves. I have for many years had a hunting shack on 80 acres adjoining the Rice Lake Federal Refuge, the middle of Timberwolf Central, and have seen the remains of many wolf deer kills. All that is left on the snow is a few tufts of hair and a massive blood stain. Timber wolves are huge. Here's a picture from my trail cam. That is a big animal.
Wow.
That's a big animal.
Picture just a big animal.
We also have cougars up here. A friend of mine was taken by our game warden to see a deer killed by a cougar. It took them a few hours before they were able to return to the scene. And when they arrived, there was a kill, and there were 5 dead coyotes that the cougar dispatched for moving in on his kill. All right. So I think we can put to rest the idea that wolves were involved at White Bear Lake. They were not. Apparently, wolves can even eat the bones.
Well, let's be clear about something. That was your idea. Nobody here on the program or anybody else considered it being wolves.
It was me. I'm a idiot. And
I guess so.
And a follow-up to Lisa from the UP on her sensibilities regarding how she should handle her emotions given this warm winter.
Okay.
Hail the Flashlight King.
Hail you.
Please allow me to weigh in regarding Lisa the Uper's letter yesterday. After spending a half dozen or so winters in the western UP, mostly in Gogabic County, which is west of Ontonagon County, not Ontonagon. That's how you say that.
Is it Gogabic?
I don't know.
Isn't it?
I don't know. I know it's Ontonagon. I needed a break from the hundreds of inches of lake effect snow, so I moved to Koochiching County, Minnesota. Winter is great in moderation, and you don't have to shovel the cold air, so Minnesota is better for me. By the way, I just wanted to mention those counties because they're fun to say. Some of us are loving this easy winter because we work outside. I am a forester. In the UP, I had to wear snowshoes to do my job 5 days a week, 6 months a year. This year, well, I'm not even sure where they are right now, and that's a nice break. I'll finish by saying the deer population in northern Minnesota and the UP could use a break. So please advise Lisa and all snow country GLers to enjoy this winter guilt-free. Chances are we'll be back to normal next year. Keep pushing back. Nick Ronning, now residing in one of the B counties. B counties would be Becker, Beltrami, Benton, Big Stone, Blue Earth, and Brown. All right, so he's in one of those counties. Mm-hmm. Now on to, we're just loaded with the collapse of the country today. We're just loaded with the collapse of the country.
That's promising.
It's not. It's dreadful, and many of us are shaking our heads wondering what has happened to the human race. Channel 5 Eyewitness News had a piece last night in which we literally, those of us watching the 10 o'clock news, watched a prisoner die in custody while 2 employees of Hennepin County stood there like morons.
I don't, maybe I'm overstating this, but I want to see the same outrage over this death that we did for George Floyd. This guy died in custody begging for his life while they just stood there.
It was disheartening to the 10th degree.
It was shocking, Joe.
The family, the
ambivalence.
fellow who died is young guy named Lucas Bellamy. And the family of Lucas Bellamy held a news conference yesterday. Among them were Lucas's father, Louis Bellamy. I did not know this about Louis Bellamy, but he's the founder of the Penumbra Theater. They were also joined by attorney Jeff Storms, who was involved in bringing about civil lawsuits on behalf of George Floyd's and Daunte Wright's families. Storms said the lawsuit focuses on the deliberate indifference and wrongful death of Louis Bellamy. And if you saw this, you were I couldn't believe what I was watching. Footage played during the news conference showed Bellamy crawling on his hands and knees while a Hennepin County jail guard and a nurse stood over him. This was at night on July 20, 2022. There was no sound in the video, but medical documentation showed that Lucas was begging staff to bring him to a doctor and that he was in pain after ingesting drugs before his arrest. Despite repeated requests throughout the night, Lucas was not taken to the hospital, or was he not? And he was not taken to the jail's emergency department. Storms also pointed out that while the nurse checked his vitals, she did not take his temperature. Doing so might have alerted jail staff to the seriousness of his condition, since he died of peritonitis, inflammation of the abdominal lining. He had a hole in his intestine. Mm-hmm. Louis Bellamy, the dad, spoke on the pain of watching his son suffer. I made a living as a theater director. I know how to construct tragedy on stage, Louis Bellamy said. I can honestly tell you, I could not have built anything more callous, more disrespectful to human existence than what I witnessed on that tape. More footage, time-stamped at 1:30 a.m. on July 21, 2022, the same night, showed Lucas calling jail staff again to alert them to his pain. Lucas reportedly said, help me, my stomach hurts really bad. Let me turn the page because it's very important. Medical records show the nurse gave him drugs such as Visceral, Zofran, Imodium, and Melox, although some of the meds spilled on the floor when Lucas was too weak to swallow them. And I don't know if those drugs would have helped him or not. I don't know. Jail staff returned again at 3 a.m., but still refused to take him to see a doctor, despite him displaying signs of agony while he was on the floor in the fetal position.
And Joe, a previous doctor for HCMC had told them that he be returned to the emergency department for any new concerning symptoms. So they were under strict orders to bring him back if anything like this happened.
He was declared dead at 1:17 p.m. July 21, with the cause of death listed as peritonitis due to perforation of his small intestine. I can link this to larger declines of moral and ethical integrity. We seem to be falling apart. Lately, for example, I don't know if this is a legitimate link, but we've noticed airplanes with trouble.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up.
Physical trouble, wheels falling off, plugs flying off the fuselage. And it's too early to say that that's the result of slovenly workmanship. But what in God's name is happening to normal, conventional, resolute disciplines? If you are a nurse in the jail and you're a guard in the jail, aren't you entrusted to preserve life?
Right.
What is happening here?
We've been seeing that decay over a number of years. I mean, at least I have. Haven't you guys?
Listened to a podcast earlier today where a guy spent a bunch of time on airplanes over the weekend. One flight was delayed because there was too much fuel in one wing and not enough in the other. Another flight was delayed because they had to take hydraulic fluid out because it had been overfilled. Just backing up what Such said about the airlines.
Yeah, and it's a weak link, but it just springs to mind because they've been so prominent in the news lately. But no matter what field of life we look at,
Exactly.
there's decline.
It's across the board.
I'm tempted to jump all over the board here. And I will, because I can keep it all together. I can tie it together. The Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston is Harvard's teaching hospital.
Okay.
You with me so far?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's retracting 6 papers and seeking to correct dozens more by 4 of its top researchers, including the hospital's CEO, COO, and 2 program directors. All 4 of the implicated scientists have faculty appointments at Harvard Medical School. So Harvard just ousted its president as a serial plagiarist.
Yes.
The new co-chair of its anti-Semitism task force is a virulent Israel hater. And now its med school big shots have allegedly been faking their research in a cancer hospital. The fake data was only detected by an amateur outsider on a crusade against academic fraud. I'm reading from the New York Post. Even now, the Institute is conducting an internal review debating the professor's intent to deceive. That's all I have on it.
You want to talk about Fauci and everything he told us
No.
and that has now been retracted? You don't want to go down that road?
Well, I don't have it in front of me.
All right.
I do want to talk about, because I think it can be tied to this. I want to talk about Angie Craig.
Oh, boy.
Is she fighting for us?
Why?
No.
What?
This is a piece from Alpha News written by Luke Sprinkle. That's a funny name.
Yes,
isn't
it is.
Mr. Sprinkle.
Well, he's got a hell of a piece here. You're not going to read it in the Star Tribune. You're not going to read it in the Pioneer Press. And I read it. I read it thoroughly, and I tried to be neutral, and I failed miserably to be neutral. In a letter released this week, Representative Angie Craig, she's a Democrat from Minnesota, voiced support for a proposed Biden administration defunding pro-life pregnancy centers. Referring to the centers as crisis pregnancy centers, Craig joined others in wishing to restrict the flow of federal tax dollars to pro-life pregnancy centers.
Huh.
Craig attacked the pregnancy centers, saying they fraudulently provide one of the most valuable and difficult moments of their lives by presenting themselves, and the printer failed me miserably. I apologize. And according to Craig, women are exposed to biased counseling and misinformation at these centers.
You need to get that line in, presenting themselves as legitimate reproductive health care clinics offering medical services. Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're being deceptive to me.
They're trying to convince people to choose life.
Mom comes in, she's pregnant. Here's a facility that would encourage you to have the child.
I don't identify.
But we don't want to give any federal money to a facility that would encourage you to have and care for the child, and we'll help you with that. If you make this choice, we'll help you with that. No, we want to take all federal money away from such a facility. Jesus H. Christ. And that is a prayer.
Okay.
What is going on?
We live in a time where one of the most difficult, horrific decisions, something that's going to affect you and more people, your child, possible child, for the rest of your life. It's a tough, tough decision, and we've politicized it. We're arguing about it.
Well, I would argue that it's not a tough decision at all.
Joe, it is.
Well, for some people, it is.
It's a goddamn tough decision to choose an abortion. It's probably the toughest decision.
I thought you
that,
meant pregnancy is a tough decision.
And when you have to choose that, it's a decision you have to live with the rest of your life. Even though that pregnancy may have resulted in the mother's death and definitely the child's death.
Help me with this paragraph. In reality, pro-life pregnancy centers provide a variety of essential services to women, families,
and children born and unborn
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Pro-life pregnancy centers such as First Care Pregnancy Center offer free pregnancy
testing, ultrasounds, STD testing, adoption services, prenatal classes,
parenting education, counseling services, and clothes and diapers.
Yeah. All how
So
can those
you
things...
don't want them. We can pay for everything under the sun. We'll find money for a 4-year-old kid to transition, but we sure as hell aren't going to provide any money.
Yeah.
We're not going to provide any money to tell a woman, you got a tough choice here, lady. We're here to help you. Here's what we can do for you.
Right.
We're not going to give them any money.
They're coming
This country is getting rotten to the core. It's rotting at its core. It's rotting.
Tell me it's not evil, Joe. That's
I'm not going to tell you it's not evil.
Straight up evil.
You know, she won't come on with us. None of these frauds want to come on and hear the truth. We're not that far from the prisoner in agony dying on the floor. We saw that on the news, by the way. You can see his final collapse behind the bars of his door. You can see him slump to the floor, and it's over for him while these two idiots are standing there. It's not that far from Harvard faking cancer research. It's certainly not that far from Angie Craig apparently out front in positioning the federal government to withdraw funding from anybody who would actually tell you, we're here to help you with your pregnancy.
Isn't, though, that the standards being lowered, everything like that? Aren't we now seeing the copy and paste generation basically growing up? They're now adults with jobs and kids and things of that nature.
How far away are we from billboards and TV commercials promoting the advantages of abortions? That's where I feel like we're headed.
You're not far away at all.
Mm.
And Chris, it's right in there somewhere. It's the non-feeling, no sense of personal responsibility or cred.
I know what it is.
He's on the right track.
The social contract has been broken.
Yeah.
It's broken.
That's the final piece.
What I think what Reavers is saying is they're bereft of soul and conscience.
Yeah,
right.
because I know a guy who, and I'm not going to out him, he openly bragged. He got great grades in college. He said, I never studied once. I copied and stole everything I ever did. He's got a good job and he does well, but he fully admits.
But the social contract compels an individual a responsibility for your fellow humans.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
That's what the social
and
contract
this particular
is.
person has that.
Okay.
If a guy fell on the subway tracks, he'd jump down and help that person.
But the social contract compels in an individual the responsibility to care for your fellow human beings. And that social contract is broken, and we're led by a political class for whom the contract is broken.
You're right about that jailer and that nurse.
I hope they're fired.
They looked like they were PO'd because they were missing a TV show or something. Like they were pissed off that they were being bothered by this guy. He didn't even stoop over to help him out. She just leaned down and gave him a pill.
Given those orders, why? I wonder what they're.
That's
come out
what we're
correct.
trying to figure out, Matthew.
Oh.
What the hell? How do you not help somebody in that much pain? How do you just stand there and watch them die?
Well, at the very least, why don't you hit an alarm and call a doctor?
Are you so used to seeing overdoses and the dregs of society and dirtbags and scumballs that you're just so hardened that you can't care anymore?
I don't want to think that, Kenny. What I thought when I saw the video was they think he's faking it.
Yeah.
That's the reaction
Yeah.
I had when I saw that.
God, yeah, I think I'm cynical. You're far more cynical than I am. You are.
Right. But I guess that's the initial reaction that I
think
had.
that's in there too. I think that's legitimate. It's a disturbing video.
Yeah, I couldn't watch the whole thing.
Well, as part of the breakdown of the social contract, it would logically follow that what also breaks down is the respect for life.
Yep.
I mean, you can drive yourself crazy every day reading the newspaper.
And we do.
And tally up the incredible ways that people are dying.
Yeah. Preventable deaths.
Well, I got a fever.
What's a prescription?
Don't